Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Intersections, Policy, Program, and Practice Exchange. My name is Elisa Gwilliam, and today I have the pleasure to be speaking with Executive Director of Mental Health America Dutchess, Andrew O'Grady, and Professor of Psychology and Director for the Center on Aging and Disability Policy at Mount St. Mary College, Dr. Larry Force. So Andrew, you want to get us started today?
Sure, here we are again. Another episode, and hopefully bringing some information to people so that they know that there's options in this world of recovery. And today is pretty great because Intersections, which we call this platform, is only one part of a treatment modality designed by the people we have on this call. Including Dr. Larry Force, who's been my co-anchor of these Intersections programs. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and he's going to talk to all of you about how Intersections evolved and where we are today.
Thank you, Andrew. And Alyssa, thank you for helping stitch all of this together. And Andrew, a tip of the hat. As Andrew said, we've developed a collaboration, a partnership. Andrew and I have known each other for 30 some odd years. And I don't know, probably about, I guess it was in 2003 that I think about it. I'm walking down the streets of Manhattan. And the question was that I've been thinking about is why is it that some people master things easily and some people it's overwhelming? And then I started to think about the stages of theories that I've been, exposed to across time. And then it hit me that it's not just the stages, but it's the things that's going around it, the dimensions. And then from that, I created the theory called the theory of dimensionality. And you know the way the theories go, the thought process, they're creative, you're input, you're developing, you're moving it forward. And along the way, one of the things that became very evident to me is that there was a real gap in services when it came to, or even presence, when it came to the issue of addictions and recovery in older people. So I was thinking about that, and the beauty of ideas are that they're great. But in order to implement them, you need to put together a team. You want to be able to further brainstorm. It's as Alyssa said, I'm a professor of psychology at the Mountain. I run a center on aging and disability policy with my dear friend Jeff Kahana, and his mother is a world-renowned gerontologist, and I've learned a lot from her. And one of the things that she always talks about is the fact that everybody brings a skill set to the table. So you don't do these things alone. So I started to talk to my friends, Dave Brinkerhoff and Jim Ball. And we got together on a regular basis and we started to frame this out. And then, from that, we built additional things conceptually. And then we, put together this national organization of adult addiction and recovery, NOAA. And the idea was, which still is to be present for older adults. But when we first started, we were talking maybe 16 above. And then, as time went on, we said, okay, 15 above. And then as the cases and faces started to really percolate, we said 40 and above. And now what we're here to say is that we're exactly who we say we are, the National Organization of Adult Addictions and Recovery. So all theories are great, but you need a practice orientation. And collectively, we put together this practice orientation called Intersections. And then we played around with that intersection, a day program without walls. And what it became is Intersections, and what it is intersection, a program without boundaries. So now we got the underlying theory, we got this program. Now the idea, where do we test it? Beta test it, pilot test it, implement it. There's a lot of words that go with that. So I said, I'm going to reach out to my dear friend, Andrew O'Grady. And I reached out to him and I introduced him to Jim and Dave, met in a diner. And at that point, we were still writing in the conceptual part. And he said, I'll provide a presence for you. And he was able to underwrite the initial draft. And then when we finished, it's all about connections. When we finished, we went back to him. Since that time, Jim is on board at Mental Health of America as coordinator of peer services. Dave has always had a a connection. And from that initial introduction, was able to develop a relationship with Andrew and his agency, and two agencies became one. So a lot of good has come out of this. So what happens is that we have this great idea. We have a program, we have a place to implement it, and we start to implement it. And Jim Ball is going to talk a little bit about the implementation of it and what it looks like. But the issue is that then COVID came. Prior to this, I mean, we're cutting edge. There's no doubt about it, and we have an appreciation of technology. And the first, draft of this, when we were going out and implementing it at Andrew's agency, where he's the executive director, then COVID came in. We were using virtual reality glasses. We were ahead of the curve. My youngest guy said to me not too long ago, "Dad, you guys were really ahead of the curve with this virtual reality stuff." And he's right. And now everything is talking about, Facebook becoming Meta and virtual reality, and we'll circle back on that. But then COVID came, so we had to go, in quarantine like everybody else, and we went, to the video platform. And other programs and projects I'm involved in through our center, COVID came for all of us. And we had all this content knowledge and no way to get it out. So we started to use Zoom and send it out through our mailing list. So we did it in one project, and we went from a mailing list of 450 to a mailing list of over 4,000. Then we do it into another project. It took time to get up to that level. Then we did another project. And then I call Andrew, and then I speak with Jim and Dave. I said, "Listen, I think I've stumbled across something. This idea of creating a Zoom recording and then sending it out through the mailing list. Let's call it Intersections Exchange Policy Program and Intersections Exchange Policy Program and Practice." And that's what we did. And that's what you're witnessing right now. What's the outcome? It's been incredible. We wanted to elevate the voice of addiction and recovery to a national level. We started off local, we did state, we did national, and we're really proud to say that we also reached international. And we've had guests on from Ireland and England. It's been great. Australia, it's been great. So with that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce Jim Ball and Dave Brinkerhoff. And these are my friends and co-founders of NOAR. And I'm going to ask Dave to just speak for a moment, and then Jim is going to highlight the manual and talk about the process, because we have beta tested it and it's been very successful. And he can even tell you the number of places. And Andrew has opened up all doors, and we've been in a number of his homes. And we are really proud of where we are. And guess what? We're going further. And that's the good news. But we're doing it collectively as a team. So Dave, with a couple of comments, and then we'll turn it over to Jim.
Just a couple of comments. One is the need, and there's always been a need. And I know as head of MARC, the Mid-Hudson Addiction Recovery Centers, it was, we were always underwhelmed, put it that way, with so much, and overwhelmed with other pieces. But we've been working, and we finally merged with Andrew's organization on so now we have roughly 250 employees working on it. But along the way, Intersections has been helping us as we do that. The thing that just came up lately, a quote that I read about 3 weeks ago. Every 2 weeks, the number of people who die in the United States from drug overdose, opioid addiction, alcoholism, equals the number of people who died in our wars, our recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And that's a fairly sizable number. If we can help in any way avoid that, get people understanding what's going on, I think we will be doing, and we are, we're doing it, but it's going to take more and a lot of other things. We made a great contact last week, and we're looking at having probably about 30,000 more people be aware of Intersections, most of the people on the West Coast. That's one of the things we're working on right now. So glad to be here. I'm glad you're here.
You know, Dave, and we're so glad you're here. You know, Dave brings up this whole issue of connections. You know, I talked about Dave and I getting together, but even when we first got together, the one group that really believed in us and continues to believe in us is Joan Kaplan and the Kaplan Family Foundation, because they were able to help underwrite the initial work that we were able to take to Andrew and say, we want to further develop it. You know, it's been all about this team stuff and building groups and teams. You know, and Dave said, you know, about this new avenue for us, you know, and how does that new avenue arrive at our table? Because someone believes in Dave who believes in the project that we're doing, just the way it's always been. Somebody believes in what you're doing, they like what you're doing, and the next thing you know, they're helping you do it and being involved in it. So we appreciate that so much, Dave. And now I'd like to introduce Jim Ball. Jim Ball has done an incredible job. And on a professional level, you know, a personal level, I'm proud to call him a friend. On a professional level, he has really integrated himself into the whole world of addictions and recovery, from getting a CASAC to moving over to an agency-based platform to coordinating peer focus. And he's been such a strong voice in the area of recovery. And the one thing that is a real standout, because when you're trying to do training and you're and you know, moving and coordinating, you know, getting scheduling and working with staff to do that, and then you put COVID on top of it, Jim, you've done a great job in helping, you know, make that happen. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jim Ball, and he's going to talk to you about what our program looks like and the implementation of it. So Jim.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Larry, for the intro, and Andrew, for all the opportunities that you've brought to NOAR and the Intersections program, and myself. It's good to be here with Melissa and Dave and everybody. So I'm a person in long-term recovery, you know, and for me, self-care has always been, you know, a big part of that recovery, both, you know, on the mental health side and the substance side. And when I started working with Larry on the nonprofit, and we started talking about his theory, you know, of dimensionality and how that would intersect with self-care. Some of the things Alyssa brings from the Healing Center, you know, mindfulness, meditation. We talk about diet, nutrition, visions and goals, spirituality. You know, all of these are modules, all of these are components of the Intersection program. I'm just going to take a minute here and share my screen, and we'll be able to see the manual. I hope you guys can see that okay.
Yeah.
So here we've got the manual, and we have some, you know, we've been working on this for a while. We have some forward motion in getting this over to the New York State Peer Certification Board, where we're hoping to get certified to use this to give peers some continuing ed credits towards their certification. So we're pretty excited about that. And you know, as Larry said, you know, we've got the program without boundaries. I mentioned some of the modules here: meditation, movement, mindfulness, spirituality. But you know, when we talk about the program, and I'll tell you that we've been able to deliver this in person. We've been able to deliver this virtually. We've been able to deliver it as a hybrid model, and we've even done some self-directed work. We're using this across the agency. We're using it in our recovery homes, our community residences, in our crisis center. Some of our HCBS peers are using it one-on-one with some clients. So it's a very robust program, and when we're talking about across the co-occurring disorder, if we're looking at substance, mental health, even chronic illness, self-care is a pathway to recovery. If we're talking about, recovery is really about achieving our goals and living more independently. And, self-care is a great pathway for that. So all of these are talking about self-care and lifestyle changes. Our main goal here is to keep people on their recovery plan, whatever that is for you. Also, staying out of services. We talk a lot about in the community residences, let's make this our last visit to the MHA Addiction Recovery Center. Let's talk about gaining some success back in the family and the community. And with these lifestyle changes that we're working on, hopefully people will be able to fill some of their time with some of these new behaviors, as an alternative. We have a follow-up where we do some meetings. Right now we're in a stage in the presentation. We just did 8 modules at our women's residence, and now they're doing peer meetings that are based on self-care and kind of an ongoing follow-up. Then we'll go back in 6 to 8 weeks, and we'll just run through the program again as the turnover happens in the residence. I'm just going to spin through. You can see we've got in the module, in the manual here, we have a consent form. We get everyone to do some consent to having the data collected. We're not, we are collecting data. We know we have, in every time we've presented this, we get 100% satisfaction and 100% participation. That's what we're looking for, and we're really finding that people really like this, and they may not be engaged in every module, but as we go through the different modules, people are, you can kind of pick and choose almost like a menu on what you're going to take with you and follow through on. We have a survey. We have a couple of surveys that we do. We do a more extensive exit survey, but we call this a mindfulness quotient, where we talk about how often people are using self-care now and how much they would like to participate maybe in the future. How focused are you? How supported do you feel? These are all pieces of the mindfulness quotient that we are surveying. We talk a little bit about what is intersections. Larry mentioned the theory of dimensionality. It's a here and now practice. It's really about meeting people where they're at, talking to them about what their strengths are, and trying to move forward with that. This isn't psychotherapy. We're not doctors. We're people who have lived experience, and we're meeting the participants where they're at. So in each module, we'll always start off. We'll introduce the topic, and then we'll have a round robin discussion to find out where people are at with meditation. What's working for them, and then we'll try to tailor the talk or the facilitator to what's happening in the room. I'll just spin ahead a little bit here, and you can see we have an orientation module. So that's the first one we do. Generally, Larry and I do that, and we just talk about what we call our holistic triage of. We talk about harm reduction, person-centered care, trauma-informed care. We talk about connections, as Larry mentioned. Addiction and chronic illness. These are all very isolating, and when we talk about recovery, we're talking about connections. And I'll move on. At the end of each module, we have a little worksheet. We have another discussion centered around this. Some of our definitions here. So if we gather with the group, as I said, we'll talk a little bit about the topic, and then the manual is both. The manual is interactive. So if we click here for the video, this will activate one of our videos over here, which are up on YouTube. And so let me just bring this up. I'll show you. Just jump ahead. So you see the manual is interactive, so you can just jump to the video. As I mentioned, we have several different ways of delivering the program. So here we have Catherine, who's our meditation facilitator. She was actually with us last week at the women's residence in person. So we didn't use the video in that instance. We did it in person, but because of the pandemic, or if we're delivering this to Minneapolis, we might use the tape, or we might have Catherine live with us on a Zoom call. It's very adaptable to whatever our needs are in our situation.
And kudos to flexibility, excellent flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent flexibility. That's the key
Right.
to a good presentation. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, that's a basic principle of the way we deliver the program. We'll have a conversation about the topic. We talk to people about being in recovery, about staying in recovery, staying out of services, and getting back into the family and community. And the facilitators are they're all wonderful. They have their own lived experience. We've got a list of other facilitators that we can bring in as we grow the program. Right now we have a basic 8 modules, but even next week, or actually tomorrow, we're delivering it at the men's residence, and we have a strength trainer coming in who's a friend of ours, and we're going to work on the movement portion with Kevin. So as I said, the module, this is the way the modules go. We have a conversation. The facilitator will come in. We may, if it's a smaller group, we may do some reading that we have here. Then at the end of each module, there's some links to some additional references if people are interested in digging a little deeper, and a couple of exercises. And then we have our worksheet, which is basically just used for discussion purposes. So,
I mean, Jim, the points that you highlighted, can't be amplified enough. That it's, solution focused. It's here and now. It's not about the past. I've had recent conversations with somebody, and they have a very interesting statement. And the statement is, where you're looking is where you're going. I like that. The other thing that was said is, the past doesn't dictate the future. The future dictates the future. So where you are and how you're going to act is dictated by how you see the future. And one of the things that I think that we're all understanding of and very clear about is, look, everybody's got stuff. Everybody's got stuff. So this is not about what happened in the rearview mirror. This is, and I think one of the things that I am so proud of is that, in the words of Elon Musk, we've disrupted the space. The existing space, although has a long history, the existing space doesn't seem to be, how do we know this? Because we look at recidivism rates of people coming out of rehab and the number of people going back into rehab and back, and it's a circle and it's a cycle. And I think that what we've been able to do, and we can talk a little bit more about this, but we've been able to disrupt that, that space. One of the things that we're very, proud about is that this is portable. This is not something that you have to, carry around like a New York City phone book. This is portable. It's accessible on your phone. Recently, over the last year, we have really have had a wonderful relationship with an app developer on the mental health and wellness side called Pacifer that really focuses on complementary and holistic care. This is a natural fit. And the idea is to be able to have people take this with them, have it accessible at any time, individually, at any time in privacy. The other day, Jim sent Dave and I an email. He said, what about these little stress reduction things that people can have on the way out? I mean, the idea is that, you don't have to do this alone. Addiction is alone. Recovery is never alone. And you don't have to do this alone. And I think that the voice, and Andrew, I'd like to hear more from your perspective as well here about the fact that you live as a practitioner and as an agency administrator, you live in the land where there's a lot of pathology. And then we come knocking on your door and say, hey, I think springtime is here. Let's open up the windows and get some fresh air in here. And we're talking about solution. And you and I, people follow us on this. You and I have historically said, and you are a tremendous advocate about this. You don't need two doors to come in, one for mental health and one for addictions. You only need one door. So maybe you could just, expand on that for a moment.
Well, not only do you need just one door, but you just need, you need to open the windows and you need to see what's out there and take a deep breath and absorb in some new ideas. And that's what this was. That's why I embraced your presentation. And can we test this out in your houses? Yes. It's the same old stuff. I mean, the people have been doing the same old thing. Now there are testaments to it working for a lot of people. There are a lot of people in long-term recovery because they did the path that is considered the path to go in. If you go to a treatment center right now, they're going to tell you almost exactly what I would have been trained to tell you 30 years ago. You got to come in here. We're going to test you every once in a while. You're going to pee in a cup and you got to keep coming here. And, if you relapse, we're going to send you to rehab. And it's the same old stuff. And they use terms like that you're mandated to do this. And if you don't comply with this, then, if you don't comply with this pathway, this only one pathway, then you're out, or we're going to violate you if you happen to be attached to the law in some way, which many people were. And there's got to be other pathways, and there are, and this is one of them, and this is fantastic. We have to look outside the box. I've said before that we're in our infancy right now in mental health and addiction treatment. Think about it. I mean, what, 100 years? 100 years about, right? We were burning people at the stake that had mental health issues 200 years ago. We're 100 years into actually trying to help people. And for the first 50 years, what we were doing was barbaric. It was all we knew, but it was what we were doing. And we've evolved. But I guarantee 50 years from now, we're going to look back and think that what we're doing now was, a little off. So we have to learn and we have to adjust and we have to try new things. And this theory of dimensionality is right there. And it made so much sense. And it was another tool and another path for somebody to have. Jim's in the rooms now in these houses, talking to the residents. And, this intervention will not be perfect for every one of those people. Some of those people might want to go the traditional AA route, and that's that and nothing else. But there's going to be other people that can't do that. It's not for them, but this will be. So the more we have that we can throw at people, the more we let people know that there are various options for treatment and to get better, the better we all are. And this process gives people a path. Let's replace the negative stuff with this whole menu of positive stuff that you can do instead. And let's talk about why that's important and why it might work. And that's why it's successful. And I'm really proud that this agency was, the first to allow this to be out there. and to, hit the people we're working with. And the responses have been tremendous.
Well, there's no doubt about it. We would not be having the depth of this conversation if it wasn't for you. So really, you need to know that. You talk about the traditional route. Jim mentioned before about harm reduction. 30 years ago, Andrew's training, our training, and Dave and Jim, can give testimony to this as well. 30 years ago, the focus was on complete abstinence. Now we catch up 30 years later, and there's other doors popping up. There's, medicated assisted treatment, there's harm reduction. However, we're not in any way trying to dilute the value of fellowships or abstinence. It's like in traditional medicine. I love the stuff that Alyssa brings to the table. The holistic, the complementary stuff, the salt cave, all those things that she does at the Hudson Valley Healing Center. But with all of that, I'm never giving up my Western trained doctor. I don't look at it as an alternative. I look at it as a complement. And the same thing here. We're not asking you to give up one mode of recovery in order to use this one. But this complements those other modes. You can put it all together because not one approach fits for every person. So Dave,
no matter what path you're going on, just to piggyback, no matter what path you're going on, whether it be the rooms, whether it be I can do it myself, whether it be a holistic approach, any of those, like to your point, can benefit from this intervention as well.
Absolutely.
It just makes it so much better.
Yeah. Dave, any summary comments?
I look at the intersections as kind of the icing on the cake. Really, at the current moment, we've got a lot of people who have been through programs somewhat successfully, and then they came on to intersections, and they're being very successful. So we're just going to continue.
Yeah. And Jim, you did a wonderful job in providing that, the landscape. Comments from where you are? The fact is that, you're in the field, you're doing, and just like Andrew talks about, one door, you cannot have a conversation with Jim Ball unless you're going to hear the word peer, which is wonderful, because that's where we're at. This idea of peer recovery, peer, so Jim, you want to talk a little bit about that as we summarize this?
Well, yeah, I would just say, that I've got some, the data from the outcomes of the peer intervention are very strong. And even SAMHSA, the governing body of behavioral health from the federal government, has instituted a new office of recovery, which is a peer-based, their messaging and their focus is on delivering peer services. So, there's no question that, this is moving forward. It's a very exciting time, I'll say, to be in recovery and to be seeing what's happening. Because, as Andrew said, the history has been, a lot of stuff has been evolving slowly. But right now, there have been so many changes. OASAS has changed their name, and you're hearing these terms like trauma-informed care, person-centered care, harm reduction. These were not words that were being used even 5 years ago. So, coming from, the government, coming from the administration. So, yeah, it's a really exciting time. And this, intersections is just another piece of that movement, that recovery movement that is really changing the way we talk about. I heard of, I'll say we were at an event yesterday over at Marist College, and talking about recovery, talking about wellness. It was a 5K event, and I was talking to one of the students, and I'm looking for the quote of what he said to me. He said, I was saying that my kids today, if we talk about addiction or mental health, I can have a conversation about that with them. But when I was growing up, there was no conversation. that was, we didn't talk about that. So I think that, what this student said to me, he said, our generation has unprecedented self-knowing. And I really believe that the things that we're doing here, the education that we're bringing and the resources that we're bringing are really a big part of that, that we're really making a difference. And things are changing. I can see them. Not quickly, but they're moving.
Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. And Dave, thank you. And Andrew, as always, thank you. And Alyssa, we're gonna turn it back to you now as you bring it to conclusion, and also, getting the contact information from us. Because one of the things that we're also proud of is that we've heard, because Andrew Alyssa creates the video, puts it up on YouTube, sends it out over to Andrew and company. Next thing you know, it's being sent around the country nationally. And one of the things that we did here, and it's a good feeling when people write an email and say, thank you, we've been following this, we've been watching it. And agencies talking about even using it as in-service training opportunities. So Alyssa?
So Dave, do you want to provide us that contact info?
Well, I can just give you the stuff for NOAA. The best contact information for NOAA would be www.noar.org.
Okay.
But I think it would also be important that Andrew give out the number and the contact for MHA.
Yeah, so anybody can call 845-473-2500. You'll get MHA. You can ask for me. You can ask for Jim Ball. He's here. Check us out on the web at mhaduchess.org. We have a number of different services. Please review them and look at them. See if you live in this area, see what works for you. Or if you don't live in this area and you want to pick our brain about what we're providing here that maybe you want to provide somewhere else, call us, reach out anytime.
And collectively, all of us are a phone call or an email away. All right, Alyssa?
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Dave, for being here today. Thank you to Larry and Andrew. And thank you for watching today. You've been listening to Intersections Exchange Policy, Program, and Practice. We are here for you on YouTube. Feel free to leave a comment, rewatch the video, or share it with friends. You can check it out on our website, www.intersections-exchange.org. Thank you.
Well,